Good evening. Hi, my name is Valerie Leonard. I live on the west side. I'm a lifelong resident. I live in Lawndale. For those of you who are not familiar with the area, that's a couple neighborhoods over to the south and to the east of this community. My day job is working with nonprofit organizations, helping them do what we call capacity building, which is, building those systems like their board, financial systems, blah, 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 blah. But my real job is living in Lawndale every day. Every day there's a challenge, and one of our biggest challenges is education. A number of you have come to our workshop. We had a series of town hall meetings back in November where we basically did a profile of what was going on in education in all 6 communities on the west side. We found that clearly we're struggling, but there were some very bright points. North Lawndale schools actually have the highest graduating rate of all schools in the city. So our graduation rate on the west side is actually higher than the city average. So we thought that was something great. What we struggle with is a number of school policies that we find to not favor us, and we think one of the best ways of equaling or leveling the playing field would be to actually get an elected school board. So there's pros and cons to why we should or should not have an elected school board, and rather than to get off on the deep end one way or the other, I really appreciate Representative Ford. He says, why don't we do a task force where we can look at the pros and cons, because we can go up and bark up a tree, get our elected school board, but if we're not careful, we will end up with something worse than we have now if we hadn't thought about it. So he has introduced HB 1152, which will be a task force that will evaluate the pros and cons of an elected school board. And if they think that the elected school board is something that we want to do, what are the best ways, what are the most fair ways to make sure that there's equitable representation amongst geographic lines, amongst racial lines and class lines, etc. So clearly, there's a lot of work to be done. We really appreciate the fact he's been working on this about 2.5, maybe 3 years now. He got it passed in the House. So let's give him a round of applause. And we also, so he's got, well, you know what, I'm not going to speak from that now, I'm halfway through. So at any rate, he's got that passed in the House, and now we've got a Senate sponsor, Senator Munoz. And Representative Ford, how much longer do you?
The Senate operates different.
Okay. So they're not quite on the time frame. They couldn't do things as quickly. I'm hoping that they can do this within the next session. We also had an issue with turnarounds. As you may have read in the newspapers today, there were 3 schools that were turned around, 2 of which were on the west side. We had Dvorak in my neighborhood, North Lawndale, and we had McNair out here in Austin, and there was one other school, Gresham, on the south side. And we were very disappointed that happened. We worked with a number of people in the community and with the schools to develop a plan, an alternative plan, to not have a turnaround with the model where you come in and fire all the teachers and replace them, usually with younger, more inexperienced teachers. We wanted to actually use the transformation model where you use the existing staff to turn the school around. And that's been successful, and it's certainly cheaper than AUSL. There have been a number of issues with AUSL, including the feeling that their teachers are inexperienced. I believe 80% of their workforce has less than 5 years experience. Compare that to Chicago Public Schools, where 75% of the workforce has more than 5 years experience. So we're going to see a big shift in terms of the level of experience, and then, unfortunately, experience has a direct correlation between, there's a direct correlation between the experience level of the teachers and the outcomes. So we're expecting some bumpy roads, but we're hoping that the community can rise to the top and help that. In my words, adding insult to injury after losing those schools, we actually just found out today that the mayor wants to use $60 million in TIF funds to build a new school on the north side. $60 million, a selective enrollment school named after President Obama, while he continues to disinvest in schools on the west side. So we typically get turnaround schools, we get rapid expansion of charters that are growing at such a fast rate that they can't really keep up, and that's impacting our outcomes. But yet more affluent communities are getting selective enrollment schools, they're getting IB programs, and the like. They're getting top of the line quality education, and we're getting what's left over. And finally, school repurposing. As you know, we have a number of empty buildings that are boarded up. They used to be schools, and CPS wants to sell those buildings. So they will be issuing an RFP, I believe in June, for people who are interested in bidding on those properties. We have been urging our folks at CPS to work with the community more, have a planning session where we can actually have bona fide input and not just community information where these buildings are concerned. So without further ado, that sums up my presentation.
Quick with all those changes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, okay. And Commander, I am so sorry.
That's okay,
I
it's
don't.
Captain.
Captain, I'm sorry. Captain Robert Clish. Okay, did you want to come and address the crowd?
Do I need this? Can everybody hear me? Okay. Hi, I'm Robert Clish. I'm a captain assigned to the 15th District. My job title there is Executive Officer, which means I'm number 2 over there. There's a commander and then a captain that oversees the 3 watches with the lieutenants. So you're aware of the boundaries of your district that you go to school in or you reside in are Cicero to Austin, Roosevelt to Division. The Austin District, the 15th District, has about 280 police officers. That's from commander down to patrol officer, and we are a training district where we frequently get in brand new police officers and try to teach them the right way to do police work. That's all I have. If there's any questions or anything from anybody? Okay, thank you.
Okay, next we have Ms. Ruth Kimball. You can introduce yourself, tell us where you're from and why you're here and all that good stuff.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am a child care provider. I own the daycare on the west side of Chicago, and I also serve as the executive director of Austin Child Care Providers Network. We have a network of over 100 child care providers, and what we do is we provide technical assistance for these small businesses. I also serve as the chief or the chair for the Austin Early Childhood Collaborative, which has been in existence for 3 years. So what we do is we help small businesses stay in business, we help them to grow, and with the help of LaShawn, we've been able to do a lot of technical training. So I encourage our providers to be educated and trained in their field so that they can pass that along to the children that they care for.
Okay, next we have Mr. Morris Reed. He's the executive director of Westside Health Authority. Okay.
Good evening. I like that. I like that. We have some Christ the King students who come to the Westside Health Authority on our Division Street location to help us out on a day-to-day basis. So we also appreciate Christ the King being a community, it's a community-based type of school. And it's exactly the type of school that Representative Ford mentioned earlier that we're looking for all our schools in Austin to model themselves afterwards. So I'm definitely with the representative on that, as well as Ms. Leonard. Like she said, I'm the CEO of Westside Health Authority. The Westside Health Authority is a 25-year-old organization in Austin. We have 6 locations on the north end of Austin, from Chicago Avenue to North Avenue, between Cicero and Austin Boulevard. And what we do there is we really look at wellness, and wellness encompasses all facets of being well and being safe, having better education, being employed, being healthy, anything you think of that makes you feel good about yourself and feel good about where you are encompasses what wellness really is. And our mission is to really focus in on using people to play a vital role in improving that wellness of a community. And what I'd like to just mention tonight is that with the support of the representatives, this summer we have a unique opportunity to bring on 40 residents of Austin to provide training, but to get them more involved in providing wellness services to the community. We're going to, thank you. You may have seen it in the paper, but we're really looking for 40 good people who have always said, you know what, people like Ms. Leonard can't do it by herself, right? We need to really get people up in arms about what's going on in their neighborhood. And so we're looking for those people who said, you know what, I like to be a part of that. I like to be a part of the solution in our neighborhood. And so we're looking for those 40 good people to impact 1,000 households this summer. It's early summer, late spring. So I'll got some information up here that talks about how we're going to compensate people for this work and how they're going to be engaged. But 1,000 households. Now, if we're successful in doing 1,000 households this summer and impacting those families that live there, look at what change, guess what change could happen in this neighborhood. And so we're very excited about this opportunity. We're very excited about the work that's going on in the neighborhood. And we're always here to work with people. So if you want to do some good, come see us. Thank you.
Yes, we're paying you. So the training, we're paying you $10 an hour. The actual work is going to be performance-based because we want people to be incentivized to actually go out there and make a difference. And we'll pay $35 for every successful household that you visit and that you engage a person in conversation, that you're able to either link them or refer them to some services, or even document what services that they, we can't meet. Because we'll take all that information, and we're working with DHS and other state departments to say, you know what, your resources are limited. So let's make sure that these resources are targeted to the people who need it the most and will have the biggest impact. So it's a very important job that we have to do, and we're looking for 40 good people to do it. The phone number to call, I'll pass out this stuff, but the phone number to call if you're interested is 773-664-0339, or you can email Percy Giles at pgiles@healthauthority.org. Okay?
And finally, before we get started, one more commercial from Lincoln's Challenge.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Peter T. Thomas. I am the director of the Lincoln's Challenge Academy, and I'd like to thank the representatives and everyone that had a hand in putting this together today. When I hear the word education, I get very excited because I think and know for a doubt that the future belongs to our youth, and we must plan well to ensure that they are successful. Lincoln Challenge Academy is located in Rantoul, Illinois, 15 miles north of Champaign. We drove up today to be here, just to be in your audience and presence tonight to make a difference in the United States of America. The young men and young ladies that we brought up here today, they got very excited when I said that we were coming here, not just because they was coming to Chicago, but they know that they was coming to learn something new, put something on their resume, or something they can add to their resume, as something that will help them to go out and be successful. We also brought the supervisor for the recruiting placement department here, Mr. John Leonard, please stand. And we have Mr. Emery Holmes, who is a recruiter here for the Lincoln Challenge Academy down in Rantoul. For those of you who may not know, Lincoln Challenge Academy is a program for young men and women who are 16 to 18 years old, who are high school dropouts, who are looking for a new life, who wants to see a change, who wants to make a difference. We are a quasi-military environment. We are up in the mornings at 5 o'clock. 5:30 we are outside doing calisthenics, and 5:45 we are running. 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, no sweat, 4 miles, 5 miles, better yet. And at the end of that, then we go on in and we change back, we have a nice breakfast, and we go ahead and get ready for the day. They go to school in the mornings, they have counseling, have computer training, have everything, because we're not in competition with anybody. They come to Lincoln Challenge Academy because they want to make a change in their lives. They want to stand on the frontier of freedom and say, I have made a change in my life. I'm going back to my community, and I'm going to become a productive community. And this forum here couldn't have happened at not a better time, because we all need to be in this thing together. As I tell my staff and my cadets, no one walks behind each other. We walk side by side. You can't fall to the left, you can't fall to the right, can't fall backwards. The only thing you can do is move forward, and that's why we're here tonight, to help you move forward. And I want to say thank you for inviting us. Call us again, we'll be right here. Thank you very much.
Okay, one more thing, one more commercial. I just want to acknowledge everybody who's in the back at the Resource Center. We have Miss Adrienne Stewart. I'm sorry? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, thank you. Adrienne Stewart, did you want to stand? Okay, she's with CPS, Office of Early Childhood Development. We've got J.E. Terrell from the Chicago Police Department. You want to stand up and let people see you? We've got Nikki Baser. I believe people have seen her, but she'll come later, but you can stand anyway. She's with the Illinois State Board of Education. And you have already heard from Ruth Kimball and Morris Reed. And in the back, we have Mr. Bernard Clay. He's with Introspect Youth Services. We also have Dan Basil. He's with Tutor Mentor Institute, all the way in the back. We've got Akemia Sutton with Illinois Student Assistant Commission, or ISAC. We have Bobby Brown with Colonial Life. And Kevin Gordon with UIC, the Chance Program. Okay, have I missed anybody? Okay, Lincoln's Challenge is in the back. Emery Holmes, my neighbor, we grew up together. I better not forget Emery Holmes. Okay.
Chicago Public Library.
Okay, and your name? Keshana Clark with the Chicago Public Library. Okay. Now, moving right along to our program, we have remarks from Ms. Nikki Baser. She's the General Counsel of ISB, and she's going to talk about the responsibility of state and local role in government in education. Okay, Ms. Baser.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you. I'm going to forego the microphone. We lawyers are usually loud enough. Again, I want to apologize on behalf of Dr. Cook, who is ill. He sent me. They don't usually let us lawyers out of the office, so I am very appreciative to be here, but I know that he'll regret not being here, especially because we have this lovely group of students here. Thank you, Representative Ford, for inviting us. We really do appreciate being here. We also appreciate Representative Ford's leadership on education issues in the House, particularly in the House Ed Committee when he serves on that from time to time, and just on these issues in general. He had asked us to talk first a little bit about what the state does for education, and then talk a bit about some of the big issues that we're seeing on a statewide level. So the state Board of Education sets the educational goals and policies for the 2 million children in the 4,000 local schools in Illinois. And Illinois is a really amazing and interesting and very diverse state. So we have, obviously we're in the middle of Chicago, which is by far the largest school district in the state. We have school districts in this state that are smaller than the population of this high school. We have districts in big urban areas, we have suburban districts, and we have districts that are entirely rural. So the state board sets goals and policies for all of those districts, and obviously that is challenging because the challenges that those districts face are very different. State lawmakers like Representative Ford pass legislation, they pass laws for schools to follow. It could be a specific area of study that a school has to engage in, specific data that a school has to report. And we at the state board, we try to interpret and work with school districts so that they can follow all of these laws. The school code at this point is about this thick. So superintendents, school boards have their challenges, and we at the state board really try to help with the implementation. We also adopt learning standards, which are essentially just what students need to know in order to be career and college ready. Local school boards develop curriculum, that's the day-to-day of what you see, but we set the high level as to where students should be when they exit these schools. Illinois is a local control state, which you've heard, which means that most of the decisions, the day-to-day operations of districts are done at the local level. They're done by the school board, and they're done by the folks that the school boards hire. You'll hear from CPS and, of course, their board here. One of the things that the state board really encourages is that local community, parents, students, local community members must be involved in their schools, working with board members, working with administrators, and making sure that their voices are heard. In many cases, the laws that are passed, there is some leeway in terms of how you implement. And in those cases, it's really the community that should be saying to their district, this is what we'd like to see happen in our schools. Because with that ownership comes real progress, as we've seen throughout the state. One of the things that is really exciting at the state level is, and some of you may have heard the news on this, is we just received a waiver from No Child Left Behind. And we do the woohoo also when we say that. Not many people understand why we would woohoo, but the No Child Left Behind Act was an act of the federal government in 2001, and it I think all well-intentioned, but it really, in many ways, really constrained school districts in terms of the federal funds that they were receiving, and also our ability to really adequately rate what was going on in schools. We were stuck with a point in time, test score, this is what we're looking at. And what the waiver does for us is it really frees up a lot of federal money so that school districts can be more creative about what they do. It also allows us to implement a new system of accountability, meaning we can look at school districts and say, are they growing? It's not just, are you are your students performing on a standardized test, but what happened over the last 5 years? So you might have a school that has lagged behind, but you see enormous growth over the last 5 years. We want to be able to recognize that. We want to be able to see that. So it really frees us up to be able to do that. And I mentioned federal money, and I hate to harp on money too much, but I think one of the things that's also happening at the state level right now that I think is really important to keep our eye on is, the state constitution says that one of the state's primary responsibilities is funding a high quality system of public education. But, frankly, it's really not been happening at the right levels over the past number of years. I'm going to tell you a statistic. I'm not a big statistic person. I'm not a math person. I went to law school for that reason. But this is a really stunning statistic, which is from 2009 to 2013, education funding in Illinois was reduced by nearly $1 billion, billion with a B. Schools have had to make a lot of cuts. Teachers have been laid off. Textbooks aren't replaced. We have school districts that have cut all extracurricular activities, all arts and music programs. They are really down to the bone, and now they are really cutting the bone, as we say. Teachers, we have school districts in very high poverty areas in other parts of the state, areas where they have no social workers, no school counselors. So we've really seen a devastating impact to the state cuts. Last year we did receive a $140 million increase to public education, but of course, It's not nearly enough when you've lost $1 billion and everything's gotten more expensive. So right now, lawmakers, Representative Ford is hard at work with his colleagues on a new budget for next year. We have proposed at the state board, under the leadership of our chairman, Gary Chico, for an increase of over $1 billion to get us back to where we should be. The House and Senate are currently talking about cutting us $1 billion. So that's another $1 billion that they're contemplating cutting. We've actually been asked to say what would happen if we cut $1 billion, and at some point we just have to say, you just can't. There's just nothing that we can do. We cannot put this on districts. Right now, Illinois ranks 47th in the nation in terms of the state's contribution to education, and yet we have one of the biggest economies of any state across the nation. And so one of the things that I always say, and Dr. Cook always says in audiences like these, is please, your state representative is here, but you have, and the folks from other parts of the state, please call your state reps and senators and talk to them about the education budget. This is absolutely the most important thing that the state does, and if we don't invest in our education and our future now, I'm not sure where we'll be when those children start graduating and entering into our college and career areas. One of the things, and I should say, money does not solve all problems, but certainly when we're down at this level, money solves a whole heck of a lot of problems. One of the investments that we really are focused on is in early childhood, and I know that other folks here will talk about early childhood, but this is so crucial. We have made, the state board has made early childhood funding a major part of our agenda. Last year we spent about $300 million on early childhood. We want more. We know that, and we've got our health folks here, we know that investing in children at that age affects the brain's development and lays the foundation for social and emotional well-being, physical health, and future learning. Everything happens in those crucial first years. And that's our opportunity to ensure that all students can learn and achieve. Invest in early childhood education programs in low-income communities, and that's what's going to solve your achievement gap. I know that there's a poster up here that talks about racial and income disparity in terms of performance. You invest in early childhood, and that is going to go a long way to closing that achievement gap. And Illinois has a persistent achievement gap in the African American, Latino, and low-income communities, and we really need to start seeing that narrowed. And it's also, it's one of those things, I'm not a business person, but it's one of those things where you invest now, and it's so much, you get students on the right track, and it's so much cheaper than trying to catch them up later. And one of the things that we're seeing in Illinois is that we're graduating folks from high school, and then they're going into our community college and four-year level institutions and having to pay for remediation courses. That's hugely expensive for parents and for students. And what we want to see is we want to catch that early on. We want those kids to leave their high schools ready for college and career, and so much of that is about our early investment in early childhood. One of the other things that we're doing we did at the state board, and is crucially important and is a huge state function, is implementing new learning standards. Again, it's sort of one of these high-level issues, but it really is establishing what kids need to learn in English language arts and math, and we've recently adopted science and PE standards from pre-K through 12 to prepare them for college and career. And they really set the benchmark for learning. And when we adopted them, the goal really is to make sure that all students are performing at the highest level possible so that they have every advantage when they get out of our public school system. By creating these clear expectations for what students need to know, it sends a message to our districts, to our communities, to our schools, that every student receive a high quality education regardless of the zip code that they live in. We remain very committed to these standards. They were based on the Common Core, which was developed by the states. There's been some controversy over the Common Core, but we remain committed to them, and so do our teachers overwhelmingly, our PTA, and all of the stakeholders in education, because they are the right thing to do to bring our level of education up. The other thing that Representative Ford, had asked us to talk a little bit about is the world of assessments. I know in Chicago there's been lots of discussion with CPS about testing of students, and we're implementing a new test next year, the PARC assessment, and we're really excited about this test because the goal behind this test is really to actually test what students are learning. And we really need to move away from tests where you're bubbling in answers based on the concept of teaching to the test. We want a test that's worth teaching to. We want a test where it's teaching high-level thinking. So you've never seen a reading passage before, but you have the analytical skills. You know how to approach that passage, and you can show that on a test. So real rigorous examination of what students are learning. Also, we would like to reduce the number of tests. We have, fortunately or unfortunately, we have obligations under federal law to test every student every year. But that doesn't mean you have to test them 20 different times during the school year. The idea is to come up with a balanced assessment system so that you can look for student growth. You can really see what students are achieving across the grade levels. And also, we know this student is not at where they need to be. We need to do something now before they graduate from high school, or now before they get out of the elementary school. We also want an assessment system that's across K through 12. So we're not doing the ISAT in elementary and the PSAE in high school. It doesn't tell us what's happening to those students in between that gap. So we're excited about PARC, which is the new test for next year. It's not going to roll out issue-free. There's going to be kinks. There's going to be issues. We're moving towards online. Everywhere is moving towards online. That's going to be a process and a change. But we're really, again, excited about the vision and what it's going to mean for our students and what it's going to mean for our communities. We've also really looked at raising the standards for teacher preparation programs, and also what teachers need to know when they leave those preparation programs. Obviously, the learning on the ground happens in the classroom with the teacher, and we know that a teacher has the absolute best opportunity to impact a student, and so we need those teachers as well prepared as possible, and so we're working on those. The other thing that we did at the state level recently, which is we made a new school and district report card. And this is really an effort to bring communities and parents into the process. We want you to be able to look at your school report card, your district report card, and understand what it says and understand what you're looking at. So several new metrics on next year's report card will be the middle school students passing Algebra 1, because mastery of algebra at that age is a strong indicator of college and future success. Freshmen on track, which talks about where your freshmen in high school are, and a whole bunch of other great information out there. So we're really trying to, at the state level, show you guys what's happening in your district so that you know. A couple of other just quick things to mention. Illinois, today we announced the Illinois Honor Roll schools, and I think that this is a great recognition that schools receive. We have Spotlight schools, which recognize high poverty, high performing schools that are beating the odds. Academic Excellence Awards, which are schools that have sustained their academic performance, and Academic Improvement Awards. And CPS did very well and got a number of these awards, and we're really proud of those schools. And again, really looking to see what schools are doing, where the growth is, and how students are achieving. So that's a little bit of a snapshot, a very quick snapshot of some of the big things that are going on at the state level. We're in the midst of our General Assembly, our legislative session. Again, budget and the money for schools is really our focus. There's all sorts of interesting pieces of legislation going through right now, having to do with school discipline, charter schools, bullying. All of those issues I know are really near and dear to the hearts of parents at CPS and the community. So during the question and answer period, I'm more than happy to talk about any of those issues, as well as anything that I've said or anything you want to ask about the state or what the state is doing. We really do like to hear from the community. We are a state agency. We're in Chicago and in Springfield. Sometimes at the state we can sort of feel a little inaccessible, but we do like to hear from folks. I actually, besides running the legal department and the legislative staff, I run our public school recognition, bullying, sort of discipline, homeless conglomeration. So I deal with a lot of parents and a lot of students who are engaged, and again, happy to talk with any of you tonight in the question and answer period or afterwards, and I'm happy to leave my card as well. So thank you very much for coming out. Your engagement is hugely important to education, and we appreciate the time. Thanks.
Okay, as you think of questions, you should be writing them down in your on your card, and at the end we will read the cards and read some of the questions. Alrighty, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Lafayette Ford. He's from CPS, and he's going to share with you how CPS implements state education requirements, et cetera, et cetera.
All questions have to be read.
Yes. Those are the rules.
I'm also going to try and go without the mic. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to Representative Ford for inviting us here. And before you ask the question, no, at this point we don't know if we're related. We may have to do some DNA to really go back. Since my family is rooted in the West Side for the last 100 years, our family home in East Garfield Park, we've had that for over 60 years in the one house that we still have members of the family staying in. I'm a graduate of public school system here in Chicago, graduating from Marshall High School. I've been with the board now for about 18 years as an employee. However, prior to that, I was a consultant. And since school reform came in 1989, I served as a member of local school councils, both as a parent and a community rep on both elementary and high school. So I was able to get a good feeling about what's happening in the system from both the inside and the outside. Today I've been asked to talk to you about the 5 pillars of how we interpret and what do we do to take the things from the state that we are imposed to deal with education. And again, keeping in mind the statistic you heard earlier with the fact that the state of Illinois is number 47, and some people argue it's really number 50, in terms of the per capita amount of money that is done with education. So we're almost the worst in the whole United States from that. That's the framework that we have to work under. So with that, most of the stuff, if everyone has that, you have this here. I like giving people what they're going to see that they can take home and read. It really deals with our vision, and it deals with the 5 pillars that we have. But before I go further, I'd like to know, could the parents and students from CPS raise your hand so I can just sort of know who I'm talking to? All right, thanks. So in looking at the 5 pillars that we have, I'm just going to go over them briefly, and there'll be one more in particular that I will go into, and that will be family and community engagement in pillar number 3, because that's the department I'm from. So the first pillar deals with high standards and rigorous curriculum and powerful instruction. We want to go beyond just the basics at the board. We want to make sure that people get and our children become as critical thinkers and effective communicators as possible. This definition is the fact that right now, everyone has to understand that you have to think globally. Job report that just came out in February showed that the next level of education for jobs is now having a master's degree. We have over 47% of the jobs that were being taken were with college-educated people with BAs, BSs, for basic jobs. So we're talking about like McDonald's and whatnot. So that's happening in the world whether we want to admit it or not. And therefore we make sure that we've had to raise those standards. The second pillar is dealing with the systems of support that meet the standard needs of the students. We have to make sure we remove the barriers that hinder us from learning practices for the students. And that means that we have to deal with both safety, social and emotional development, school attendance, college, and career. We no longer can talk about just the 3 R's. Any move we make, we have to look at how does it affect our students, not only in the classroom, but in going back and forth to school. When we make a decision, we have to talk about safety. We have to talk about eating. We have to talk about those things that are not just germane to what we grew up, the 3 R's of education. It's different now, folks, and we have to take that accountability for it. We have to respond to everything that happens on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, because come Monday morning, it's going to be in our classrooms. And that's what we have to contend with. We want to engage and empower families and community. Parents must be empowered to be leaders who can advocate for their children and their community's children. I'm a parent with 2 children. Yeah, they're 31 and 27. They both graduated from college. But our discussion at the table, when we have at least our Sunday meetings, we're talking about that they have to go back for their master's degrees. My son has been out for about 5 years and he's been in banking, he's doing well. My daughter just got her nursing degree. She's been working for about 1.5 years and she just got a promotion. That's not the discussion we have. The discussion is, what are you doing now to go into getting your master's? Because now since you've got this, do you want to go into administration or do you want to go in that? See, as a parent, people need to understand that education is a lifelong skill. It's lifelong development. It's not something that is just happening in preschool and elementary school and then high school and then college. We have to be continuously developing ourselves. All right? We have to have that instilled in our children, and the only way we can do that is if it's instilled in ourselves. We have a situation out here that enough parents do not know that. They don't understand it. And we're going to help them understand it in a way so it's not just in education needs. They have to understand how important it is for them to talk to their children about education. They don't have to know everything. You don't have to know the new math. I know it messed me up when I was small. I don't know what the new math is under this core curriculum coming. There's a lot of discussion about that, but the important thing is we have to make sure parents understand that they are the ones who can only instill in their child about education. I do a lot of violence with students, and I'm telling you, the hardest thing to do is when I'm talking to a parent and that parent tells that child, well, I'm gonna tell them to hit them back. Well, they don't understand that that child is never going to listen to us if their parent is saying something else. I can't tell their child not to listen to their parent. All I can do is when I get to court, say, Your Honor, Mama told her to do that. So you need to talk to them. But we need to have Mama tell them about why it is important to get education and what to do with it. Pillar 4 talks about committed and effective teachers, leaders, and staff. We're dealing not only with our teachers, but the principals and administrators. My wife was a principal, and I'll be very honest, I'm so glad she is retired. It is not an easy job. The standards and the amount of things the principals have to do now has been taken up so high, it's very difficult for them. We still hold them to that standard because they have to go through a lot to even be eligible to be a principal. But that's what we have to have if we're going to have them leading our schools. The final one is sound fiscal, operational, and accountability systems. Well, folks, here's what's happening. Like I said, we're number 47, we're getting the money. So we definitely have to watch how we're spending it. That's all there is to it. There are a lot of critical decisions that have to be made on every level, starting at the top with the board itself, with administrators downtown, with principals, and then with local school councils who have some of the ultimate decision-making power as to what happens in your own school. Unfortunately, our choices are no longer to say what we would like. It is now saying, what do we have to keep, because we're going to be losing something. Those decisions are very difficult. There's no different than the ones you have to make in your home sometimes. I don't know how many of y'all got to choose between cable and cell phones. But fortunately, cell phones, you can get cable on now, so some got to go. But those decisions really have to be made, and that has to be instilled throughout our whole system in making them. I just want to talk to you a little more about the third pillar again, because to show you how serious is happening at the board, that deals with getting parents involved with their education of their child, not necessarily in the school. We have to make sure people know that the connection we want is with the child, not necessarily just with the physical building. There's a sheet in there for you again on this that will go over the elements of the department I'm with, which is family and community engagement. My last 2 minutes I'm going to give to one of my colleagues, because he'll be able to tell you more specifically what's happening in this area, because that's what he represents. But very quickly, in terms of what we do, we have, first of all, community action councils. Those councils are made up right now, they're in about 9 different areas around the city. Those are made up of community people, business people, educators, who help to look at succinctly within their communities, what do they think needs to be happening with the buildings and the educational programs that are there. This is something that is not done too many other places in the United States. Certainly, we also have the local school council relations. I hope you all recognize the fact that we're the only school system almost in the world that have miniature board of educations in every school. And it's made up of parents, community, teachers, administrators, and high school students who get to vote on everything except for on contracts for the principal. That is how you have the involvement. We've been doing this for over 25 years. Now that's state mandated. The board did not come up with that. So we have to follow that, all right? I've been in that for a long time personally, but we have a department that is in fact geared towards making sure that that works effectively. But that's the administrative part that deals with inside the school, and it deals more with policy. So what about other places in the school? We're working along now with a lot of faith-based organizations, all right? You may have heard again, we just had over the spring break, we had over 100 churches that provided safe havens for students to go to during the time it was out. Now, if you don't think that was important, just think about what just happened over the last weekend. How many students we got shot? How many were killed? All right? We had over 4,000 students that were in safe haven programs that were sponsored by the board. Now, mind you, normally when you say spring break, you don't want to say nothing about the board. We're all gone, right? No. We understand, again, that we have to deal with things other than what's going to happen within our own walls. Parent support centers. You'll see a card here. A couple of years ago, we got rid of an office that you used to be able to call and get a lot of information on. We were able to get it back now. You have a hotline number. If you're a parent and you have a question or an issue and you can't find anybody to get the answer from, please call them. They're responsible to let you know what it is. We have people in at least 5 different areas of the city that is divided up to help work with you, whether it's suspensions, homework, issues with getting a child in school, homelessness. They'll be the ones who will help provide you the information that you need to get to. It's 773-553-3223. That's 773-553-3223. Everyone should have this, and we have some other cards if not. And if you do forget this number, just call 311 and tell them you want to talk to us. They'll get you that. Then the final one that I want to let you know about, I'll be bringing them up because this is probably one of the most important issues that we deal when we talk about engaging families, is that we have FACE managers. And FACE managers are responsible to go out into the community and to coordinate with connecting, first of all, families, the parents, the children, to get parents to understand what do you want and what do you need to know about your child in education. How can I help you? We have classes for them. We hook them up with their various schools. We bring in community organizations, and the number of organizations that I see here, who have difficulty with being able to communicate individually with some of our schools. They come to us and we'll get them into the schools to help them understand. Sometimes people can't give you the time that you need to get your answers. You need to come to us. We'll find the time to get the answers that you need. With that, I'm gonna bring up Lionel Smith. We got two lined up. He's the face manager for this particular community, so he's going to give you some examples of the things that are being done here now and in the past, and it'll just take a few minutes.
Good evening, buenas noches, and for all of you who are hearing impaired, good evening. Again, I'm Lionel Smith. I am the face manager for Austin, Belmont, Cragen. All right, in Austin, what we've done in the past as far as that, we've held a health summit for our parents and the community. We've also held a parent collaborative conference where we address bullying, where we address some of the Common Core state standards. One of my biggest initiatives right now, there's two. Right now for community, there's coffee and conversations. And I try to do this off campus so that it can be raw and uncut. And as Ms. Leonard will tell you, I normally schedule maybe 30 minutes, but I'm on your time. And I need to find out the pulse, what's actually happening in the community from different voices. So in your pamphlet, I have my name and my email and my telephone number so that you can contact me. My phone number is 773-535-8035. That number again is 773-535-8035. I'm also starting the Parent Leadership Network for Austin. Our Parent Leadership Network will be comprised of at least 3 parents from each school to collaborate with the other parents in Austin to map out what our needs are. A lot of times what we do as face managers, we inspire, educate, inform, and empower our parents. But it's also, it's like a catch-22 because, for instance, I have a parent this morning I met with at 8:30. He has an issue with helping his son with 4th grade math. First of all, I had to let him know you're not alone, okay? So, I want to give you the tools to help your son, but I also want to connect you with the educational resources to help yourself. So if you're having trouble in math, let's go get you basic math skills so that you can help, so you can be involved and engage in your son's learning. Okay? Again, my number is on the flyer and my name as well, email. Contact me for raw and uncut conversations in the community. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, we're going to deviate just a little bit from the program. We don't have it listed here, but we'd like to have the youth to come up. The youth who are helping out with Austin Voice. I understand you have a presentation or some words. Okay, everything is okay? Alrighty, are there questions? Do we have?
I can ask that one. We were going to hear from CPS.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It helps. Everything you need to know you learned in kindergarten. Number 2, early childhood development. I'm sorry. Thank you.
It's not a problem. Thank you very much. My name is ADRIENNE Stewart. I'm from the Office of Early Childhood. I am the Director of Parent and Community Engagement. I would like to thank Representative Ford for inviting early childhood to the Education Forum. Early childhood is important to the overall success of children in schools. We in early childhood are committed to working with community agencies and schools to improve early childhood programming for our youngest learners. We started with our Ready to Learn enrollment process back in March 3rd. We ended our first round on April 11th. We're in the process now of collaborating, counting the children who have enrolled so far. We have our next round, which begins on May 27th and extends until June 27th. We have been working with the Department of Family and Support Services to ensure that we have access, quality, and slots were given to all children, all families, and communities with the highest need. We've expanded the number of blended programs through our collaboration with the Department of Language and Culture and the Department of Learning and Special Services. The implementation this year of a common citywide curriculum aligned to our assessment system. We also have been working with the creation of the preschool guidelines, high-quality professional development aligned with the priorities of classroom environment. We also have been looking at curriculum and assessment to further support children's school readiness. We are excited about the opportunity to continue to work in the Austin community wherever we need, wherever the support is needed with the classrooms. We are here in order to support the classroom teachers in the enrollment process. We're reaching out to them. We're giving them ideas, some suggestions on how to increase their enrollment. And so we are here, as I mentioned, to support all of the programs in the Austin community, all the programs that are receiving funding either through the state or through the federal government. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions? Oh, okay, we're going through the. Okay. Okay.
Do you want me to ask them or?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so I think there's a couple for you that might be,
Oh,
you'd be an
oh.
excellent answerer. Okay, so the first question I have I think would be great for CPS and Valerie. Someone asked about programs in the city during the summer for special needs children in particular.
Most of the programs that we run during the summer are mainly academic, and it's normally for students who have had more critical issues. Unless the student's IEP really had that, then they'll be referred to a particular program.
And if the parent had questions about that, they could meet with their IEP team and
Yes.
ask if they
Yes.
had that requirement.
Yeah, that would always be in their IEP.
Okay, great.
Okay, I don't know of any programs in particular that have programs for special needs, but I do have a directory that I can send you. I've got a directory of resources for parents. So if you could take down my email address, I can send it to you. The email address is Valerie, that's Valerie, F as in Frank, Leonard, Leonard, @msn.com, and I'll make sure that I send you that resource directory. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so the next question I have, I think possibly Lionel, you might be able to answer, and Morris as well. The first part is when this individual was growing up, there were a lot of community centers where children had a safe place to be after school. Why are there not a lot of community centers in the Austin area?
Well, for us, a lot of the funding has changed as far as funding community-based organizations for community centers. You know, we were talking about numbers earlier, but it's pretty much the resources for community organizations to really have safe havens and provide, centers for children. Probably been reduced more than 300%. I don't have the actual numbers right in front of me, but we used to have funding through the Illinois Violence Prevention Authority. We used to have funding through DHS for like Teen Reach and different after-school programs. And some of the policy may have changed, so this is something that maybe CPS can answer. Some of the resources have gone from community-based organizations to more faith-based organizations. And so now, you may have to look more towards your faith-based organization within your neighborhood to have a center or some after-school activities for youth. But that's my perspective on it.
Anyone else have anything to add?
just real quickly, we're also identifying, other than face-to-face, also other community activities, especially for the summer, that our students could also engage in for this summer 2014.
Okay.
And from my perspective, I think it's a matter of priority. Clearly, the youth centers and the community centers is not as high priority in our politicians' minds as it used to be. You know, I think it matters who is in leadership, and our current leadership, in my opinion, is not focused on the community centers. I think he's focused more on economic development, and the degree to which that economic development includes communities like Austin and like North Lawndale, I think that's negligible, but you know, those are my opinions and my opinions alone. I think that if we want to prioritize community centers, we're gonna have to put pressure on our elected officials. And we're very fortunate to have someone like Representative LaShawn Ford. This is something that was important to him before he was elected, but everybody is not a LaShawn Ford. Thank you.
Okay, and I think that Laura has a follow-up to that. I'm sorry, anyone can follow up.
So we also need to talk about some of the school buildings that were closed as a result of last year's school actions. As you guys know, or you may not know, but I'm going to tell you, hopefully we can talk about this more. There was a recent repurposing committee that was organized within CPS to talk about how we can best use some of these buildings that are now have been taken offline for schools. And the goal is for us to develop with the community some ideas for what should be in those buildings. And so if the communities have an idea of what they'd like to see in you know, like a community center, that's the perfect thing to talk about with the repurposing committee. You can submit a proposal to the repurposing committee and work with them, and they'll have folks that will work with you on that to maybe get one of those buildings that have been taken offline as a school put online as a community center. And I think Lafayette might want to do some follow-up on that.
I'm a little more pragmatic. When I was growing up, yes, I had a choice of 6 or 7 different places to go to. Dr. King's Boys Club, the Park District, the Fairfax House, and places like that. Right now, when we try to develop programs, you have the Austin YMCA is gone, all right? We have, the Park District doesn't have as many programs that it used to have. Neighborhood centers that are still there. Boys Clubs started getting out of brick and mortar more than 20 years ago. But Boys Clubs that they have standing right now, they have issues. We know that there's a problem with students getting back and forth from a after-school program, no matter where it's at, whether it's at a church, community house, or even in our school buildings. That's a major thing. So as we start looking at development activities, we have to look at it holistically as to what is necessary for them to really be able to attend.
Okay, another question that I think, Morris, I think you'd be really great to answer this one. Okay. Where can individuals in the community obtain fresh fruits and vegetables? Are there community garden programs? Anything like that available?
Well, you know, Austin, we struggle with the food desert situation, and always working with our local vendors to provide fresh fruits and vegetables. Our community gardens are relatively small within the neighborhood. We used to have something called Fresh Moves, which used to be a bus that would appear in different areas in the neighborhood. But it's really going to take people to come back and a lot of community engagement to really show the need and show the desire to really buy a market for fresh fruits and vegetables. One of the things that we approached the city about was how do we look at, you know, developing more grocery stores that will provide these types of things. There may have been some plans on the table, but those plans have kind of, you know, got quieted down. So yeah, there isn't enough. And so we're working with people every day. And so if you're one of the people who are, you know, really interested in being an advocate for really addressing these types of things, you know, please come to our office and we will work, you know, you can work with us in making sure that happens. Our number for that, you should call 773-786-2786, and you can speak to Julia Flowers.
And Nicole had a follow-up as well.
Nicole Wills from the State Board. I wasn't planning on speaking, but we actually have a program through the State Board. It's Summer Food Service Program. It's with from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and I know we have been selected as one of the states where they want to see our state's participation increase by something like 11%. Our nutrition folks were just talking to us about how can we get this information out to legislators, to get it out to the communities about sites, and if organizations want to sponsor sites, because it's paid for by the federal government. So I'm not in our nutrition division, I don't have all the information, but I also have cards here and I will leave them here. If anybody wants to email me, I can make sure that our nutrition folks can get that information out to you, because I do know the federal government is making a bigger investment with respect to that.
Great. Okay. Next question. With the implementation of the park assessment next year, will students in CPS still be required to take the NWEA assessment 3 times a year?
That I can tell you right now.
One thing I can tell you, if you are interested in this issue, there is a hearing tomorrow at the Belandic Building downtown. It's the Senate Education Committee. I'm sorry, I stole your talking point.
No, so Amanda is exactly right. There is a hearing tomorrow at the Belandic Building, 160 North LaSalle, where you'll be able to find out from the people who manage the testing within CPS what we've been doing, how we've been talking to parents in the community, as well as working with our teachers to develop the right approach to testing within CPS. And this hearing is open to the public, so it's at 2:30 tomorrow, 160 North LaSalle. It's on the 6th floor. If you want to go, you'll see me there, along with some other folks from CPS who'll be happy to talk with the Senate and the rest of you about what our plans are.
Okay. Next question. What are the social emotional services that CPS provides, and what is the department's name?
Okay, currently, just so you'll know, even with the amount of suspensions and expulsions we have now, when we used to have problems with students, it used to go directly from the school straight to our law department. Now we do have a social emotional unit that reviews those type of things before they go before the law department, or there's consideration for that. As to names of our departments, folks, we change them every day. I'll be very honest. And a lot of it is now being decentralized. So a lot of the things that are happening with the students are more on the neighborhood or at the school level. The support from downtown is really the support to the school on professional development, as opposed to the students coming through that.
Okay, and another question for you. Why is CPS turning around the 3 schools that were safe from closing? And I don't know exactly what schools those are, but I'm assuming, Valerie, you likely know what schools they're talking about?
McNair was one, Dvorak was one, and Gresham.
And this individual is very concerned about the McNair school that has a very large number of special education students, and how those students will receive services.
Can I answer based on what I observed at the hearing?
I think CPS should answer the questions for CPS, but if you could follow up with that would be helpful.
I think that'd be great.
So the board took action, today's Thursday, the board took action on the 3 schools to be turned around yesterday, which was Wednesday. There was a robust debate. There were parents who came out and spoke on behalf of those schools. So what happens in a turnaround is the administration and the staff are removed and replaced with a new administration and staff, in this case from the Academy of Urban School Leadership. In these cases, I should say, for the 3 schools that were mentioned by Ms. Leonard. And you know, it took a lot of work from CPS staff at central office, who, you know, that's their job. Their job is to evaluate what's going on in the schools and to make interventions that they feel are appropriate.
I think they want to know about the special ed.
So special needs students by law must be served. So they will be served regardless of who the administration or the teachers are. So to be clear, we are always going to make sure that students with special needs are taken care of. It doesn't matter what administration is in front of them. So I just want to be clear about that.
Will the special need programs be at McNair?
If special needs programs are required, then special needs programs will be there at McNair. I'm not an educator, so I can't speak to the specifics of what's needed for those students, but the people who work at CPS are going to make all appropriate and necessary steps to make sure that those kids are served, because that's our job and that's our mission.
And legal requirement.
Oh, and you know, otherwise we won't get.
You'll be in trouble.
Right.
I can tell you based on what I observed, I am not a clinician, but one of the parents from McNair was extremely concerned. She had a child who had a severe mental disability, in fact, she even said that he was diagnosed as quote unquote a retard. You know, that was the parent's own description of her child. She had her child with her, and he had, you know, it looked like he just could not sit still. I believe he had Tourette's or something, and several other disorders. She said that she had called AUSL before the action was taken, I think like 2 or 3 weeks prior to the school actually being taken over, and she asked them if they would be able to accommodate her son, and she was told by AUSL administration that they had no such programs. So she literally broke down in tears yesterday because she had no idea at that point where her child was going to go. CPS was not able to provide her with answers at that point. You know, I'm sure her child will end up somewhere, but it won't be at the McNair school. So children who have severe disabilities could very well be displaced, from my observation.
Just to reiterate, on behalf of CPS, any student who is receiving services underneath an IEP will continue to receive those services. It may not be under the same program that they were used to working with under the prior administration at a school, but they will receive services. We are required by law to make sure that that happens.
And we monitor CPS to ensure compliance with special education guidelines, so that's the role that we play in making sure that students are being served.
So I just have to ask, so can we make sure that the parents that have students with special needs, because I met with some of the McNair families, and they're concerned that they may have to travel a distance. That's the concern. We don't want them to have left a new building and travel to a receiving school with a special needs child. The question is, will the turnaround provide special needs in McNair? We know CPS
that would depend on what the needs are. If those needs need to be met, we're going to take care of it that way.
So today, if a student is enrolled with special needs, no matter what the need is, the program will be there at McNair. At McNair.
You have to ask
Yeah,
that.
sure.
You know what, why don't we do this? I will leave my contact information. If there's a specific person with that question, please send me that question. I will do my best to get our people who are in the Office of Diverse Learner Support to answer that question specifically with regard to McNair.
And as a representative that's met with the parents, actually, we're not asking you if it's going to be there. We're saying we need it there.
Okay, we will make sure that they can.
Okay, next question, and I don't really know who wants to take this one on, so if someone would like to answer, just let me know. There seems to be a lot of interest in STEM. There was mention of the importance of advanced degrees. However, 1 of 2 minority students receiving PhD in the STEM fields graduate with a large amount of debt, and if it takes many years for them to graduate. What are the plans to fix that pipeline so they don't end up failing? Which I know as someone who had to take out student loans, that's a problem for a lot of people. So is there anyone that wants to talk about?
So what's the question?
I think just about the cost of higher education and having to pay for it, especially in the STEM fields. Yeah, if I did not say it correctly.
So I got my master's in biomedical engineering. And so the thing is that we're now pushing for STEM education. But we're not, the pipeline to get PhD, we're not 2 Black students graduate in 2 years more time than it would take a Caucasian student. And they graduate with twice as much debt. Debt is a high reason why people don't finish with a degree.
So I think that's a question that CPS and the state should think about. So you deal with all the school districts. When young people come in from the STEM programs at the elementary and high school levels, or high school levels, are you connecting them to the universities to make sure that they're in programs to help them become more employable once they graduate from college?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I was just listening to a news report, and it was unfortunately not in the state of Illinois, where they were focused on actually this very issue about African American students in the sciences, and there was a pilot project being run. I believe it was New York, but don't hold me to that, where they were mentoring and providing very specific services, especially to low-income African-American students. So not only were they providing mentor support, but also economic support so that these students could maintain their interest in science and math and get through higher education and onto the PhD track. I think it's a great question. Unfortunately, it's not, I think it's really something that should be addressed with both the Community College Board and the Board of Higher Education. I think, you know, we certainly have focused on STEM. There's a number of STEM programs, certainly in CPS, so getting those students really prepared for college. But I think the universities and the colleges need to be looking at how do we keep those students on track. And I really encourage you, we do have a Community College Board and we do have a Board of Higher Ed. Obviously we have a number of great systems of public universities in the state of Illinois, and you really need to advocate with those groups. We have links and liaisons with those, and I have noted this concern and can have and will certainly pass that to our board and also to the higher ed board. But I would suggest always that community requests really go far with those kinds of issues. But we will certainly take that in our conversations with higher ed, and we encourage you to do so as well.
Anything to add?
Yeah, for our part, we have had an expansion of STEM programs and going into earlier grades over the last couple of years. And in addition to that, we've done high development of our staff to make sure that we're getting good teachers in front of them. The earlier we can get a student to be concentrating on a particular subject like STEM, the earlier they're able to start on it, the better equipped they are to be able to take advantage of scholarships and things that are offered.
Okay. Is Dwayne Truss, where is he at?
He left.
He left? Oh, he wanted to ask a question.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Took his football and left.
Sorry, Dwayne. Okay. Let's see here. Some other questions about AUSL turnaround schools. I think there is some concern about their performance as compared to traditional public schools, and why do you utilize turnaround schools?
For the parents who will have students there, you know, at each school, they're going to have the parents come in so they can tell you exactly what's going to happen at that particular school. Coming as an alumni from Marshall High School, I can tell you that I was very upset when they wanted to turn Marshall High School around. But the reason I was upset is because when they did it, the school had 3.9% of the students at level. I wasn't upset at the board. I was upset at me and all my friends around me, because at that time, I was president of the Alumni Association. We allowed that to occur. You need to look at the schools. We're making very tough decisions, and we need to go forward with what we've done. They have almost 30 schools that they're working with. We need more parents in there to work with them to help turn them around. There's no question as to something needs to be done, not only with the 3 we just did, but there are a number of schools. They need to be turned around. They need to be turned upside down. They need to be turned inside out. Now, whether it's going to be an ASUL or anyone else, that's for you to help us figure out. But until then, I don't think anybody wants to talk about where the level of the school is at and where it should be at.
And you can just keep the microphone. Currently, the building that formerly housed Austin High School has 382 students in the building. There are 26,000 dropouts in Chicago. What plan do you have to get these students back in school?
We have a program in the back right now, STEWART. They are dedicated, especially to those 26,000 students who have left our system. We want them back. We have centers, we have 3 centers right now to get them back into programs that are geared to fit what their needs are. We're going through the roles and we're trying to contact those students. We are obligated by the state to provide education up to 21 years of age. And if we find that a student, we can put a program together, whether it is night school, day school, online with computers, any kind of way we can, we want to get those students to be addressed to get their education. In short, it's an individual education plan for the dropout. It may not always be brick and mortar, because some of them have families, or they're working, or they're taking care of people. So that's done for an individual student, or a non-student at this point. But we do want them back, and we do have investment. We're trying to get them back.
Okay. Next question is also for you. Are there any plans for a selective enrollment elementary school in Austin? I'm assuming you don't know.
That I can tell you right now.
Laura, do you have? None.
So we take ideas and we get them from folks in the community. We try to integrate them. And again, if there's someone with this specific question and you want, I will leave my information, and you want to send me this specific question, I can get you in touch with some folks who have more information about what our plans are. But we are working on a living document that we actually put online for you folks to see, the 10-year master facilities plan. So you can see kind of what CPS is planning to do across the district over the coming years. So again, as we get more information, more ideas on what we need to be doing based on the feedback that we get from the community, these are things that we like to input into this living document, this master facilities plan. So
let me just ask the question.
Sure.
Is there a plan for a school in Austin?
That I can't speak to that. We do have some folks who that's their entire job.
So you're not sure?
I don't know right now, but again, if you have that question, send it to me and I'll find out for you. I'm happy to do that.
So that means no. Right. Because she would know, right?
Well, I mean, it's a very large district, and I'm one person. I don't know everything. So it is a little bit above my pay grade to know everything the district is doing.
But we got to get it. Don't worry, Lauren, it's not your fault. All right? But thanks for asking that question. I didn't write it.
Yes. Okay. So the last question is, how does CPS help students improve reading and writing skills?
That wasn't my question.
I
fixed the question.
Oh, can I explain?
Yeah, you can ask your question yourself.
Okay, well, my question was, hello, everybody. My question, let me stand up and give an introduction before I give my question. I am my name is Patricia Ray Cisse, and I am a literacy, language, and culture master student at UIC. And what I've seen from working at CPS and different literacy companies is that a lot of the issues that African American students have is because we, and I'm saying this, we speak Ebonics, right? So we drop our S's, we say be instead of is, we say we is, they is instead of we are, they are, right? So our kids are writing like this, they're speaking like this, right? But other groups get bilingual education to help them learn I am, you are, we are, she is, but our kids aren't getting this. But instead, when we get these statistics, they're saying our kids are not reading at grade level. So if we know they are reading at grade level, we see that they have these linguistic differences, what are we gonna do about it? Because we're 151 years into this now, and this linguistic issue has not been solved, but we know that it exists. So what are we doing? Or what's the plan if one is in place, or who you need to talk to try to help create this plan, but a plan needs to be created.
So if I understand the question correctly, are there specific...
There are the question.
So if...
All right. I've been in a number of schools, and I've been to a number of staff developments. I've never seen Ebonics as a curriculum guide in any of our schools. So wait. No, I'm asking. So we have curriculum that teaches correct English and correct reading. Yes. All right. So it's not different in terms of ebonics and things like that. One of the other things we're trying to do is also now to engage parents to help them understand what also needs to be done at home, because some of that also is coming from the community and from the home, from TV, from radio, from the where they're getting it from is they're not getting it at the school. So you're talking about we have to correct it. All right. So in terms of our curriculum, what we're looking at, that's what we're working at. We are trying to work with parents to help them understand that and what needs to be done to help correct it, especially at the community and at home.
Yes, sir. But if my understanding of bilingual education is correct, bilingual students are not told that this is not the school's problem. The school takes the energy to teach them standard English. That's what I'm saying. So is there a plan to teach standard English across the board? Is there going to be more grammar studies? Because the reading scores are there. It's in black and white. And me, just from my research, and I'm not an expert like you, but I see that there is a strong linguistic issue, that's not being addressed by anybody, but instead what we get is that our students are not reading well, they're not performing well in school, and then we have to throw all these resources, but we don't look at the root of the problem. And it's not that they're getting it from the communities. This is the language that their grandmother taught them. You understand? This is their home language. So again, how are we helping them?
So I gotta tell you, there was a bill that we passed, and I wrote the bill to say that students that are behind at least 2 grade levels behind their grade level that they're supposed to be in, they should be remanded to a basic skills class. I gave it to CPS. Are you guys implementing? That means that if you're in 7th grade or 8th grade and you're reading at a 5th grade level, you should be remanded to a basic skills class to get up to your grade level before you continue to be pushed out to high school or to any other level. Because if you're in 3rd grade and you already know you're reading at a 1st grade level, why are you constantly moving? Because we already know that once they get in 4th grade, if they can't read but at a 1st grade level, it's like a foreign language to them.
Exactly.
So you remember the bill that we worked on together? What's happening with that bill with CPS?
Representative Ford did indeed introduce a bill.
Passed it, signed it.
Right. So there were some outstanding concerns that we had about the way that we would implement the bill. So we're still looking into the way that we best implement that. We do have a response to intervention that we do at the school level. So teachers will be looking at individual students' performance to address those needs of that specific student. That's part of what the teacher's responsibilities include. I do want to get to the specific points that were made by the lady in the audience with respect to how CPS plans to implement, I guess, phonics at a basic level to understand how we speak, what are the basic structures of words. And I do think that some of the work that we're doing in early childhood might be able to speak to that. So I'd like to invite Adrienne Stewart to come up and answer that question.
So we do begin, when the children enter our program at 3 years old, the teachers speak with them on a regular basis. We try to encourage the parents to speak to the children. We give them specifically work with sight words, the phonemic awareness with the letter sounds. So it begins at preschool. I can't overemphasize the importance of children coming to preschool, children being enrolled in preschool programs, be it through CPS or through any of the community agency preschool programs. It's critical for them to get the start early so that we can hopefully, at the point where children are learning their language and beginning to make the sounds and begin their reading skills, they'll have what they need at an early age. So, I'm a definite advocate for early childhood. I mean, we've got to get the children in early so that they can start early, beginning the reading skills that they need to develop and their language skills as well.
Any more questions? She had any more cards, but any more questions from people that want to stand and ask the question? No one else? Oh, right here.
I would like to know, okay, when you turn the schools around, would I be able to come in the school and just look around, check or whatever, since I'm going would I come in to visit the school?
So if I'm hearing the question correct, that you want to know whether you can visit schools in your community. So we appreciate that. So I think we work with our principals at every school to make sure, and the principals, since they are in charge of managing the day-to-day of that school, my suggestion would be to go in and speak with that principal, and then I think Lafayette has some follow-up on, because he is the family and community engagement person and the right person to answer that question.
As you know, in terms of keeping our students safe, even with volunteers coming into schools, we have to do background checks and things like that. I am happy to say, however, that the current policy is being reviewed, and we're looking at trying to make it easier and more convenient for people to be able to have access to the buildings. That's whether it is a contract school or our other schools. So we think by September we'll have a new policy in place that will make it a little easier for people who do want to come in and assist our schools. So that's the policy to get you in there. Now, as to coming in and just looking around and doing some other things, there are also policies in place that says that we have to make sure the school stays on track during the day. So for people to be able to come in, even a parent, it has to be arranged, because for you coming in, we have to make sure that the people assigned to those students stay on point on what they're doing. You'll be able to come in, but it will have to be something that's arranged at the school when it's appropriate for you to be there.
So we have 2 more questions from the 2 women in the back, and I know you gave me a card, but if you guys want to ask your questions.
I had a question for the Chicago Police Department. I'm a community member in the Alton area, and my question is about the number of drug selling and shootings that are occurring, primarily in the 60644 zip code. The drug sales are not occurring on the corner anymore. They're working on cell phones, they're working out of alleys and these different things. And I don't want my children caught up in a crossfire of a drug sale that we have absolutely nothing to deal with. So what are we doing to add here, to deal with that?
Okay, first of all, let me address the shootings. Every time we do have a shooting, and this is citywide, we concentrate on the area, I don't want to say for the duration of time, but we do concentrate on a particular area. We do stop people, we do talk to people, especially if we don't have the shooter in custody, because we're trying to gain information on drug sales. We do have plainclothes police officers as well as beat officers. They do concentrate on the areas. If you say they're moving from the street corners, and they are to a point, and moving to the cell phones, that's because we've become successful in going after the street corner sales. So it's like anything else, they evolve, we have to evolve with them. I certainly understand your concern about your children wanting to go out and be children and play as children should do. In a perfect world, we'd have 0 shootings. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but we are working on it. We do aggressively go into an area, as I said, and have what we call post-shooting missions. We also now have programs where we go out and talk to likely victims of shootings because of who they surround themselves with, who they associate themselves with. And we talk to them, and we offer them through different social service agencies avenues to get out of the lifestyle. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not, but we're going out and being proactive to try to stop the violence.
That sounds great. Okay, so I think one last question from you in the back, and then there is a group of young men who are going to give a presentation. So last question.
As we're aware, there are many safety issues that impact our young people, as well as experience with trauma due to the massive violence that affects our community, and that has implications on learning. If young people are too busy focused on living, it's really difficult to various programs to address that very issue. I'm wondering if there's anything in the pipeline currently.
We're making do with the best of the resources that we have available. I know I have one of the programs you're referring to, the Youth Outreach Program that I had for almost 12 years. And I had over 100 people who were mainly street workers. I mean, they went out into the community in the evenings, on the weekends to engage with the students, especially if they were having problems. That program, unfortunately, even after the grant ran out, the board picked it up for a while, but again, in the restructuring that we have in terms of our monies right now, we have lost a lot of programs. We are, in fact, though, engaging a lot more community-based organizations and trying to utilize their services, especially with the hospitals and programs that have clinicians who are available to help us address those things.
Speaking specifically about the youth, about the GAS program that you just mentioned, they were based in Philadelphia, brought them to Chicago when there was that funding available. The funding dried up, the program dried up. There are several organizations here that unfortunately the school system did not invest in. So I'm just hoping that moving forward, we will continue to invest at home first.
Well, I think that there is a group of young men who want to give a presentation. Representative Ford, do you want to introduce them?
Yeah. So, but Lincoln's Challenge, they wanted to do an introduction. They wanted to invite people and tell them how to enroll. I think we just need them to say something, and then you guys are up.
Okay.
Because they said they have to shake the nerves a little. All right, so Lincoln's Challenge, or no smokes? And then you guys are ready? All right.
I'm John Linderman. I'm the RPM coordinator for Lincoln's Challenge. One thing about our program is it's free. We're the best kept secret in the state of Illinois. Since 1993, we've graduated almost 15,000 high school dropouts, and we're doing our best that we can. Mr. Holmes in the back has got a table with some information on it. If you know anybody that has a child that might be in trouble, our orientations are free to come to. These young men and young women have to make a decision in their lives. And the only way they can make an informed decision is to get the information that they need. So let them come to the orientation. I've got 2 offices in the Chicago area, over in the Donnelly Armory, 1910 South Calumet. The other one is in North Riverside, at the North Riverside Armory at 8660 West Cermak, 16 to 18 years of age. Volunteer with our program, and they have to be a volunteer. We also are looking for mentors. And these are people over the age of 21. They're going to be good role models for these kids. We've got some outstanding students that came up here with us today. If I could just get them to stand up and let us know your name and where you came from. Where are you from? Thank you.
They are somebody, right? Yeah.
About 65% of our students that come to our program are from the Chicago or greater Chicago area. So we put out that word that we'd like to get as many students as we can. We have 2 classes a year, January through June, and then July through December. And after they're done with their residential phase, we follow up with them for a year after they graduate to make sure that they're staying on track with what they want to do. Look for productive placements. So we're looking for people that have jobs for them, people that can provide training for them, the military, or even volunteer services once they graduate. Something to keep them occupied and keep them productive. So if you have any interest in the program, we've got brochures on the back table there. Thank you.
It took me a long time to get a title in front of my name. You guys are doing great. You're a cadet. I mean, so we got to get you all the title in front of your name. You ready? All right. Employees.
These are employees of Austin Voice, the conscience of Austin.
And we're going to spend each one, we got 4 students, each one is going to talk for a minute and a half, try to answer your questions about their schools. And without further ado, from the Austin Voice, attending Orr High School, which is an AUSL school, honors student, basketball point guard, just came back from the Illinois State Championships, 3rd place. He scored a bucket. Jamel Dotson.
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm Jamel Dotson, as he just said. My favorite subject in school is geometry because I like math and I like to know more about money. Plans after I graduate high school, I think I want to go to college. I want to go to Syracuse University to play basketball and become a pro. Things that go well in our school is the students get along together. They don't just fight all the time. My idea of education, for me, it makes me become more of a better student in school and out of school, basically. And the teacher that I would like to thank is my 7th grade teacher because she never gave up on me. Her name is Renee Clark.
Going to save the questions from the audience till the end. Remember, this man goes to Orr High School, Jamel does. And next, we got a student from Formal. He's a 9th grader. He never spoke in public before. He wasn't going to do this, but somehow he changed his mind. And he is here. His name is Donald Murphy. He is a wide receiver. He says he's going for the varsity. Donald Murphy, speak up and tell us what works at Foreman and what doesn't, and how the school might get better. Donald.
What's going good for me is biology and football, and what works out for me is everything in form because everything just work out for me good. And what needs to be worked better in school is the bathrooms and everything else. I don't got no best teacher either. I'm going to college. I'm doing the whole 4 years, and after that, thinking about joining the NFL.
Okay, to close the evening off. 2 students, we got a tag team. These students go to Banner. Banner. Anyone know Banner? Okay, Banner. They also know about other schools because they came to Banner from other schools, all right? And here they are. Devon Terry, he's been working, the tall guy here, the big guy, he's been working at the Austin Voice, putting the whole darn paper together practically all by himself for 2 years almost. He's a 10th grader at Banner. Then you're going to hear some interesting things from this guy someday. Javarius Christian. He likes science. All these guys have been working at the Banner at the Austin Voice for 2 or 3 years, and so they're going to do a joint presentation, guys. It's all yours. Who's up first?
Well, my name is Devon Terry, as he said.
My name is Javarius, and I'd like to start off with my favorite subject. My favorite subject is science because I like to do experiments and lab work.
And my favorite subject is math because it deals with money. I know everybody like money.
And my plans for the graduation is after I finish high school, I want to go to a community college for 2 years.
And my plans after high school is I plan to get a job and make better choices.
And what works well for me in my school is that I get along with all my teachers to help me with all my subjects, and they just want to see me look forward to graduating out of high school.
And what works well at my school is you don't get a half a credit, you get a whole credit.
That's good.
And what works better in our school is that we don't have like an actual lunchroom. Like we eat like in the gym. So that's like our lunchroom.
I got the same thing, so.
What's that? Say it differently.
My school don't have no lunchroom. We need a lunchroom.
What school is that again?
Banner West.
Oh, Banner?
Banner West.
So now I went to that school when it was Helping Christians, and we had a lunchroom. So we had to figure out why you can't have a lunchroom at that school. You had a lunchroom? Yeah, we got 4. You have 4. So you have more lunchrooms than him?
Yeah.
And yeah, I ain't put this on paper, but I think we also need like teachers, like better teachers that like help us like more with work and oh yeah, and our bathroom need fixing too.
There you go. What's wrong with your bathroom? Tell us the dirty truth.
Well, it's not like, you couldn't say like dirty, but it just need fixed.
What is it? Running water?
It's just like, it just needs to be remodeled.
Okay.
And for my education, education will make my life better because I can get a great job and a good college.
My education made me better because I got 1 more year in high school. After that, I'm off to college. Good job, maybe myself a house.
And the teacher, I think, I don't have no teacher to thank. I'm sorry.
I would like to thank my social studies teacher, my 8th grade social studies teacher. Her name is Marcano, for helping me pass her class and also helping me graduate from 8th grade.
Did she give you the grade?
No, it's like, at first I was failing her class, that was the only class I was failing, but she kept pushing me and pushing me.
She gave you the answers?
No, she thoughts.
So you did it? You did the work?
She got through it and she was proud of it. I could say she was like a mother to me.
And thank y'all for listening to our presentation.
Can you handle this?
You want to ask some questions, Lawrence? Oh.
Thank you. Thank you all. Did anyone have any questions for this group? And before I say that, and before I forget, I want to say these cadets here were just fabulous. You guys were great. Loud and clear. Very wonderful. Any questions for our students?
Oh, for the students here. Do you have a question?
Good evening, gentlemen. Can you all tell us the last novel that you read in your English class?
Whew. Okay.
Well, the last book I read was The Hunger Games.
No, I said in your English class.
I
What's the
don't
book
know.
that you all are reading in English class right now? Or the book that you read this year in English class?
Oh, we ain't reading no books.
What school is that?
What?
And you are in what year?
I'm a sophomore.
What about freshman year? Did you read a book?
Jabari, what's your last book you read?
The last book I read was a gang affiliated book. It was called The Making of a Latin King. And
was that in class?
Yeah. And it was about this young boy growing up in the Humboldt Park area, and they were torturing him, beating him, making him, you know, do bad things that they wouldn't expect him to do. And I read the whole book.
I ain't reading no book. Bye.
Your last book that you read in English, or the last short story?
Oh,
or poem?
I don't even know. I think the last time, in freshman, right?
No, this year, sweetheart.
Oh.
In your English class, what book did you read? What novel?
Nothing. I didn't read no book really.
Any other questions, or you want to close the evening? I don't know. You go to Foreman.
I'll go to Foreman.
Yeah. LaShawn, I think we done?
Yeah, so I think that the president of the school is going to make some closing remarks.
Okay. Microphone.
I'm not going to make too many closing remarks. I just want to kind of thank all of you for coming. One of the things I like to highlight, like students here at Christ the King are reading at least 6 or 7 novels every year, regardless of our college prep curriculum. That's one of the things we focus on, is having strong, rigorous college prep. So when kids go, regardless of whatever school they go to, they're prepared to handle the academic rigors of a 2-year college, 4-year college, wherever they go. And so I'm glad all of you came tonight to gather and talk about education. There's a lot of important issues kind of going forward, you know, in the next few years here with education in Chicago and across the state. So we appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. We appreciate all of you here on the panel, especially who got up in front of people and asked the tough questions. We're here representing the different places. So thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing the evening with us tonight. So thank you.